3, 2, 1, go.
Conspiracy theories, the paranormal, UFOs, aliens, and all things strange and unusual. This is Black Lotus.
Hey everybody, welcome to Black Lotus Live, where we talk about all things strange and unusual. And today we are going to be talking with Kenneth Hopkins, who is a celestial contactee. But before we get to that, I just want to say we're back. Wild Trees is not back with us yet. He's still feeling under the weather, but he said he's getting better. And then I believe Michael will be back with us on Sunday. But anyhow, let's jump right into this. Kenneth, why don't you introduce yourself and tell us what you're about?
Right. I've always found that difficult. But I had no awareness for most of my life that I was an abductee or contactee. And I use both those words because I wasn't given a choice to be taken many times, and other times I don't mind being taken. But with the Pleiadians, I thought they were dreams. So all my experiences with the Pleiadians for 40 years, I thought were dreams. The very peaceful fifth dimensional experiences with them. With the Greys, in the mid 70s, was missing time incidences. So as I became aware through flashbacks of the blackouts, I called them blackouts at the time. And they were an hour to 16 hours to most of a day at times. And there are long blackout periods where I had no awareness. And that was with the Greys Hybrid Project. So over the years, I've gotten to understand more of my experiences in my first book, which is not being published anymore. It was kind of a discovery, and working with a brilliant professor, I was able to put a lot of the experience in somewhat of a format, but there's still many mysteries I haven't put together. So then 2003 was when I started to realize about the abductions.
Now you said that you've had experiences with both the Pleiadians and the Greys. Have you had experiences with any other species?
I've been introduced to many different species.
Okay.
And initially it was frightening in the beginning, but I was working with mentally retarded and physically deformed people. So I think that may have helped in my acceptance. Eventually it became a mental connection between them that made for the ease, despite what their features were.
So who introduced you to the different species?
There's three groups that take me. Majority of the time, it's the Pleiadians. And I believe, and then there's a military group, and then there's the Greys. I don't really have much recollection of the Greys. So the military group, I believe, was one that took me to several different civilizations. And then the Pleiadians took me to a place in the Alps, or I believe it was in the Alps, where a gated in community with barbed wire fences and armed guards on its perimeter. And I believe it was a Pleiadian set up village, for a transitional village for them to transition into our culture with. In my understanding, that was in the Alps. But of course, I don't know where I go. I'm teleported, and then I'm taken out of a deep state of sleep, and then I end up somewhere.
Why is that?
I'm sure there's a purpose. But I don't always seem like there's a purpose. So are they practicing and placing me in different places? There's been time travel involved. There's been places in the United States I visited. I actually got a confirmation from a phone call on a woman I was with in Chicago. So I've gotten some confirmations on my night visits that were in the U.S.
So are you simply sent there as an observer?
Well, the Pleiadians had a breeding program. So that was part of a group of the abductions. The Pleiadians have classes. Since I was age 6 and 7, I was taken to the classes, but I have no memory of the classes or the class material. So, and there was another person with a similar experience, and she was having a problem going to classes she couldn't remember. And because of her, the Pleiadians will not tolerate any kind of aggression, violence, or dissonance. They're very quiet, very quiet, peaceful, which is why I thought it was a dream for so many years.
When you say classes, do you mean like a classroom?
Yeah, there'll be a classroom, and they may have been on ships at one point, and then some, I really don't know where they are. Some seem to be maybe in the United States, or because English is pretty fluent. Others, I really can't, by the background, I can't discern where they are.
I remember Whitney Stryber describing classrooms as well.
Yeah, and they've told us that when it's time, we'll remember. They're teaching us in alternative mathematics and alternative physics. When I was in college studying physics, there was a lot of conflict with them on that. And that was about 8-9 years ago. They basically felt the physics that was being taught was garbage. So they felt the Pleiadians didn't think too much of our sciences or our physics or
because they're so evolved.
What? Yeah,
because they're so evolved.
They have a better science.
Sure.
They're definitely better evolved. Medically, in so many ways.
Oh, sure.
Just the controlling of taking us at night and putting us in different locations requires some kind of level of intelligence, which I haven't figured out. We don't have a choice where we go. They put us where they wish to put us.
It sounds
or
to me
needed
like
at the time or something.
What?
It sounds to me like you have more respect for the Pleiadians than you do the Greys.
I have equal respect for both. The Greys are very value-oriented. I had problems with their hybrid project. 6 of my girlfriends were utilized in the hybrid projects, 1975 through 1978. I understand the necessity for it. The Greys have been incredibly loyal. They've been attentive to numerous medical needs I've had. I find them a very objective people. One of the things that came up on their division of the planet, those that serve themselves and those that serve others. And their interest was in those that serve others. And so they characterized the world with that kind of division. Those that are out to make money, those that are greedy, those that are seeking a lot of material, versus those that are serving one another. To serve one another is to serve the Creator by their religion. And so they serve and take care of each other's needs. They do not have an economic system. They do not have a profit system. They feel that the monetary and the profit sets up for the corruption and mess in this dimension.
Correct.
So there are a lot of people out there who believe that the aliens as a whole are taking us for nefarious reasons. It seems to me you don't feel that way.
Well, we are already taken by a group. The Anunnaki, the reptilians, they are playing a major role in the upper structures that we live in. So the current situation, I believe, is the fault of a group of dark celestials. So I believe Pleiadians would be like many that I've talked to abductees of, higher frequencies, love, compassion, unity. And then when I look at what runs the world, hate, division, greed, so those are all the lower frequencies. And what is coming in the interviews, a lot of my work is interviewing people that are abductees and contactees all over the world. And when things slow down, I put out a little ad so I get more people to interview. But in the collective of the higher frequencies, they're looking to bring in a system of unity. They're not, the system we already have is controlled by a celestial group.
Well, with the division that we have, not just in the United States, especially in the United States, but all over the world, it seems to me that those lower entities are in control of Earth more so than, say, like the Pleiadians.
They are. And that's the galactic battle that's somewhat taking place now, is between the Pleiadians and the darker groups. There's firing on the bases. There's active conflict going on, from what I'm hearing from others I interview. And
do you
from
think
what
that?
The Pleiadians.
Sorry, hon.
Oh,
do you think that certain ones of us are taken with them to learn the unity, to learn the higher celestial level?
yeah, and I believe when they're taking us to their world, they're taking us into fifth dimension. And they want us to experience the fifth dimension.
So they're conditioning us?
They're not, the other component I'm seeing is the soul family connection. I'm seeing connections with abductees and contactees feeling that the celestials are their soulmates. They have come from worlds that are very different than this one. This one is very hostile to them. So there's a lot of contactees, abductees that want to go back to the worlds of their past lives. They don't like it here. I'm getting a lot of similar statements. I myself have been born many times on this planet. So I've had involvement. I understand the higher frequencies. I've definitely seen the damage of the lower frequencies. So I'm somewhat, they said the Pleiadians consider those of their seedings on Earth to be Pleiadian. Because I was starting to call it a hybrid program. And they said, no, we're breeding amongst our own. So the Pleiadians feel a connection to the Pleiadians of Earth. And they're saying tens of thousands of years ago. I don't know, the time period. But they're working with the descendants of those they seeded tens of thousands of years ago. So that's why they said we're a breeding program. We're not a hybrid program. And
but that's our understanding.
What?
I said that's our understanding. That's what the way that we look at it is we're just being hybrid. We don't know, because there's so many of us that's been taken. There's so many different species that's taken different people as well.
Yeah, many.
That's what a lot of us are looking at, and what we get from what we're told, or what we understand from them, is why as for the reason that we're going is for, to reproduce, to reseed, repopulate, and maybe one group is explaining it a little bit different or better than the others.
They're looking to take an active involvement in Earth, is the impression, but I haven't dialogued much in that area. I'm with a small group, and they utilize a council of elders, or a council, so they don't have a single person. And the structure they've been showing me in government removes the reward of greed. It removes the reward of deceit. And so that's the structure. I'm also asking other abductees of other celestial groups about their governments. I'm just starting those dialogues. But the structure of our government has set up what we have. And so I, as I've always said, I don't think it's possible to get full ascension on Earth with an atmosphere of survival.
Not when we live amongst the darkness as well.
Yeah.
It's going to be difficult.
That's what the darkness is giving us. The darkness is giving us fear. You can see it permeate through every commercial, every news bit. Everything is on fear, division, separation, and it's to their advantage to keep us separate.
The government as well.
Yeah, but for all together, we have the energy to change what is going on in the higher frequencies. They cannot tolerate those higher frequencies. They're like acid to them.
Right.
They need to have you fearing. When I interview people with the reptilian abductions, they're being tortured. They're being raped. And I've spoken with one person with the assistance of the Greys that was able to stop her reptilian abductions. But the lower frequencies play in their abductions, they play out in the lower frequencies. Whenever I hear somebody being threatened in an abduction, or even by the manner of words being spoken in the abduction, I know they're in the lower frequency.
The lower they feed off of fear, and then the people go into denial, and it's the same thing. Fear and denial is the same thing.
Yeah, basically. But what I'm seeing with the abductees and contactees, I'm seeing a lot of the celestial aspects reflecting in them of the cultures they come from. We have the 10 commandments. 5 of them is, I'm just looking at one religion. 5 of them is about how we worship God. For them, the body is the temple. To touch the body is a violation of the temple. They believe in serving each other. They serve the Creator. They also believe they are the creators. And these run very counter. A lot of these beliefs run counter to the existing culture we're in. And when I'm thinking of it, I'm starting to look at it as a worldwide thing, not just a U.S. thing.
Right.
And my wife's given me a lot on the international perspective with United Nations, which I'm really want to looking further into.
Don't you think that each species has its own reason for being here?
I kind of put them in 2 groups. There's ones looking for control, enslavement, conquering, and then there's ones that are looking for unity, for the peace and calm of their universes. So there's kind of 2 purposes going on. There's the one introducing the darkness, and there's the one introducing the light. I don't see them as having any interest in taking over the planet. The way they're going to come through is through thought, through ideas. And I think those will bring the changes. It's hard to know what's coming right now. It's very confusing with what's coming.
Do you think we'll ever get there to that type of transcendence?
I don't know why they're giving me this structure, and the only way I can see this structure coming into existence is with the complete destruction of this structure. So I'm a little surprised they're sharing this structure with me. I'm fascinated in it, because it removes greed. There is no one person on top. There's no one person on bottom. So I like the aspects of their source of government that has allowed them to aspire. They don't understand fear. I've been amongst, they don't have a perception of fear because it's not around them. They don't have to fight for survival. Their children are taken care of. They take care of each other. Everybody works together. There's no profit on top to funnel everything up. All the resources stay on the bottom equally. So I'm working with a structure. It reminds me a lot of the Native American Indians, the Aborigines, African cultures, and it's a very simple structure, unlike our very complex structure.
Long ago, there was a lot of cultures that were like that everything was divided equally. There was no hierarchy.
Yeah. The American Indian structure, I think it's the structure that goes back in their history. And I think it's a native structure. It's a very simple structure. And there's no motive in it. There's no motive to kill. There's, of course, jealousy has a way of playing itself out in a number of ways. But that was the only negative emotion I would come in conflict with them on. But it's very simple. And so I'm working on putting it together. What they're giving me, why they're asking me to speak it, I'm confused on. So I'm just reflecting it in my writings. I can't write on a computer. All my writing has to come from a cell phone. They got programs and wiretaps on my home and this computer, and they can delete what I'm writing and they can freeze my cell phone. So all my writing now is from cell phone.
A lot of us has had that problem.
Yeah, I'm hearing of that. And disclosure is not about the truth. It's about what they want people to believe. They're going to make it
after
look
we've been lied to so long, are we really going to believe anything that actually comes out of their so-called disclosure?
Yeah,
right.
What they're saying is what they said wasn't real was real.
Of course, they're going to tell you the opposite.
Yeah, but then disclosure will never fully come.
No.
I believe it's been set up with the elite. I'm hearing of evacuations with the Greys taking a group of people away and from a person's personal experience. So people are being asked, the Greys supposedly from a contact in Germany had completed enough ships for Earth's evacuation, from what she told me. I haven't been able to get in touch with her, but from another experiencer, she was brought to where they were to an underground location where people were getting aboard a ship to evacuate Earth. And so it was a gray ship. And she was describing people of all colors and all mixtures, races. And, the Pleiadians and most of the Celestials have a lot of respect for genetic diversity. This planet is like a treasure for them.
I find some of the most fascinating cases of abduction are when kids are involved. For instance, that famous sighting in Zimbabwe by those school children.
Yeah.
And the reason I find it fascinating is because I think what they're trying to do with children is change their minds. I mean, call me a cynic if you will, but I don't believe that adults in the world will be able to change their minds about greed and all of that. Our societies are structured around greed.
Basically, yes.
And if you
But
have,
what they're doing is they're unstructuring the structure that's being put into their soulmates. We're conditioned to what reality is from the day we're born. The celestials aren't, I don't see them conditioning. I see them undoing the conditioning that is occurring. In spirituality, for example, when children are talking to ghosts, they're told them that they're imaginary, they're not real. They eventually, as a child develops, a child loses its psychic abilities, its psychic awareness, because it's not necessary for the structure of the parents are teaching the child.
Right.
I had a case where a child was trying to tell her mother that her friends are taking her to her dreams at night. And what she was actually talking about was her abductees. And it was becoming a fight between the mother and the child. And when I asked the child, I says, "Are these people as solid as you and me?" And she said, "Yes, they are." So she was being taken to where they were coming from, and they've come in and gotten me. The first time was quite traumatic in 2008, because most of the time they're looking to take you when you're in a deep state of sleep. They're not looking for this consciousness. They're looking for for an alternate consciousness that develops.
One that's going to be less evasive and frightening.
And more adapting to the higher frequency. I sometimes think these alternate cells are higher frequency cells.
Yeah, because when we're sleeping, we're in a different state.
Yeah. So.
And sorry.
Oh, go ahead.
We're usually taken, for the most part, at least I believe that we're taken at a very young age and conditioned to see them, so we're not as frightened of them.
Yeah.
Instead of just being a full-grown adult, I believe that it's possible that we don't recall said memories of such at a young age.
It's a dissociative process. And
right.
I discussed this with the Pleiadians. It's another personality of me. Which is why
the ego's removed.
It's not me. I have no conscious memory. Then I'll get bits and pieces sometimes. Other times I'll have full consciousness, but I don't, or I'll have scattered consciousness. Here one moment, not there another moment.
Right.
So it seems it doesn't. So when we're doing hypnosis, we're going after the personalities that they developed. And then we're getting direct eyewitness response from...
Right, the ego's being stripped from that.
Yeah, that's...
To where you're getting the real truth and, the real person.
Yeah, I haven't looked at it with the ego, but that makes sense.
Yeah. Because even when we pass on, the ego's removed. We no longer have that because it's not necessary. We know the full-blown truth, in passing.
Yeah. It's in spiritual. it's in watching
Right.
people pass. Some are able to go to a higher level, while others can't quite fully release. I don't know if they're waiting for those relatives to come with them, but I've noticed with the spirits, I watched some quickly develop into the higher levels.
Possible agenda difference too.
Yeah. Like my father has become a guide, and he's given me warnings on events before they would happen.
Mm-hmm.
And mostly they've been positive events. He told me about the trip, about meeting my wife before I knew about it. He gives me little information, but now my mother is very enclosed. I don't think she's fully released or fully risen.
She may be on a different level as well.
Yeah, she's definitely on a lower level, I think, than my father is.
Getting back to what you were saying about how a lot of people are taken when they're sleeping. That wasn't the case with me. I was fully aware and fully awake in driving in my car.
Yeah.
But I'm sorry to harp on this, but I want to get back to
the daytime abductions.
The cynicism.
When I was driving a car. And
no, it was at night with me. It was at night.
Daytime and night with me.
Yeah.
I lost days in missing time.
But again, I don't want to harp on this, but I want to get back on track with the idea that we may be able to transcend eventually.
Yeah.
When I was taken, my whole worldview changed at complete 180. But and I know that there are millions of people who have been taken. But it's going to take more than that in order for the world to actually change and transcend away from the greed factor.
Well,
our entire society is based upon that,
Information I'm getting is the greedy ones are leaving. They're getting on ships to evacuate. They're paying the costs to be taken from the planet. They have the technologies. I know that. I've been on these technologies. So there's an interest. I don't know what's coming in tomorrow, but it's interesting how those that deny climate change, when they contribute to what is going to become the Earth's destruction, I think they planned to leave a long time ago with their wealth. There's talk of settlements on Mars. So I think there's going to be a large group leaving this planet before whatever is going to come to this planet. But I know that, so the people the Greys take are going to probably go to a very different universe. I don't believe transcendence could come from this culture we have. Whenever you're worrying about survival, I think it removes the ability to be able to reach the higher levels. And then I see so much reward with dishonesty in the workplace, promotions for those dishonesty. I see so much in reward for the negative stuff.
I was going to say that they're rewarded instead of punished for such.
Yeah. The system, to me, looks like it's starting to fall apart. Government world. I don't know, but the Pleiadians are showing me the forms they have, and I'm interested in the celestial government structures. I don't know what's coming for tomorrow, because as I said, the only way I can see this structure working is with the complete destruction of this universe or this planet.
I don't think that they'll actually allow a destruction of the planet. I think
I don't think that'll happen, but I question whether the darkness is going to be leaving the planet.
I know what you're saying when you say ships coming in and things like that. I've had reports to me of the same thing, but of a different species coming for them as well.
Yeah. What I'm finding out is the contactees feel like they're their brothers, the celestials. They feel very connected. Telepathy is improving from what I'm getting. I'm helping people that have questions. Many are being abducted that don't have a clue. It's amazing how many are being abducted that don't have a clue.
And you just wonder if you have to get to a certain point to where you have that awakening.
I think,
or before you're shown something completely, or at least halfway, for that understanding. And I believe that most of the abductees or experiencers that I've talked to, those were the ones that we know of that. You know, we've had that awakening. We're not, we're fully aware.
Yeah.
And honestly, I haven't talked to any of the ones that have had the awakening. That's, that's an abductee experiencer, whatever.
I've had a couple where I've met them in my abductions. And this one woman was a coworker, and they were specifically, they told me it's not to tell her. She's not to know.
It's not her time. Yes, yeah. Right. It's not her agenda.
And she's yelling at work when she's reading my writing. I don't believe in ETs. I don't believe in ghosts. And so it showed a total opposite expression. My writing angered her. And so she's yelling it out at work.
Because fear will do that. It's denial.
Yeah.
So
it's repetitious. One goes hand in hand with the other.
Yeah. They crisscross. They block.
Right.
How do you think they stop us from knowing that we were being abducted?
Well, I just wanted to mention one thing. My son was a preemie. During the transfer from one hospital to another hospital, the ambulance lost 2 hours. It was obvious it was a Grace abduction. There was emergencies called. They had police looking for the ambulance for that 2 hour missing period. The ambulance was only supposed to go from Connecticut to Springfield, but they lost 2 hours. So there was an alarm, and then everything was quiet. But they've been with my son since infancy. The Grays.
It's a family generational issue.
The Grays, my son is involved with another group of celestials, not the same ones I'm involved with, but he has the Grays in common. I can't talk too much about him because he understands the realms very well, but he doesn't like to talk about it.
I think it's interesting that everybody here on the panel tonight has been taken. Ralph says he has not, but he and I experienced missing time together once. And I don't remember what happened during that time period, and he doesn't either, but I'm betting that we were both taken at the same time.
And I bet Al's been taken many other times before.
But he just doesn't have recall. We don't have recall of every time that we've been taken either.
Right.
He may be falling into that.
I didn't know it until 2003. When the hypnotist said abduction, I called her crazy. And then things slowly started coming. The hypnosis was like the kick. Everybody wanted to know what happened in the 16-hour missing time.
There's always a trigger that things start to bring forth, for our memories.
Yeah. Exactly. And in my case, my abduction happened in 1988, and I didn't remember it until 1995 when I happened to see a picture of Fox Mulder from the X-Files pointing up in the sky at a black triangle. And immediately I kind of blacked out and remembered almost the entire event. So it's strange how certain things will trigger you.
Yeah.
And it's just some little thing. I mean, you don't necessarily have to go through hypnosis and regression. You know, I mean, eventually you're going to remember, and I think you remember when you're ready to remember.
Yeah, but when we're doing,
it's all timing.
Yep.
Mike is asking, what about implants? He says he's pretty damn sure that he has one in his lower leg.
My wife got training in the United Nations on how to locate them. And she freaked me out when she found 5.
Wow.
And there's the U.S. military ones, which protrudes in my back. I had it removed because I thought it was cancer. They put it back in. There's one here. There's one I didn't know about underneath the rib here. She was poking at. I said, "That's a rib." She says, "No, that's not a rib." So she had training to locate the implants, both the government ones and the ET ones, which surprised me. She got this one in the back of my ear, the one on the sternum, this one. I don't remember where the other 2 were, but this one's a big one.
And
what do you think? What's the purpose of these things?
And possibly by different
the big ones are
species.
military. The little ones, I think, work on health. When I was 22, they removed the tumor from me, the grays. So the ET ones are real small. I had one and it got stolen. My son took it out of his toe with a needle. And I thought I had it and secured, but they've been through my filing cabinets. So it looked like almost like a pyramid shape. It jumped when I brought a magnet near it. It had a delayed jump and I almost lost it. So I had MUFON evaluate it. They could not identify the mineral or the element. And that's as far as I got with it. But I think they're a way of them knowing the body's physical state. I think they let them know on health. The military ones are more or less for tracking.
Okay.
But I actually think they give them, it's an unknown element, but it gives them what is going on in the person's body. Is it high acidic? Is it high alkaline? But when they were putting it in one person, the person was saying, "Why are you putting that in me? Why are you doing that?" And they said, "To keep better track of you." That was the grays. And then the grays have particular surgical marks that are quite identifiable. And I've collected a lot of pictures. I'm going to do a posting of these marks. But the grays marks, they look almost like scratches. As if they come together. Stomach. And in the end, most of their surgery leaves no marks. The military leaves marks. The military group. They don't quite have, it doesn't seem like they're as advanced as the ETs are, as the others are. They leave scars. They leave surgical marks.
Unidentified S4 asks if you, the implants, when they were removed, did they give off a frequency?
Well, what was first happening is I was having infections that was putting me into emergency rooms. So then I was just having them taken out. And then when they replaced the last one and the infection stopped, I didn't feel anything from them. They did set off some store alarms. And they must have corrected that one because I set off the store alarms in Walmart. As I was going in, as I was going out, it took me a while to figure out it was me. And then that problem seemed disappeared. I'm trying to think of, I haven't found any, I know they have to do something in an electromagnetic field, but I haven't felt anything from them.
Have they caused any health issues with you?
Initially with the infections they were. They just suddenly it would just become a fever and it would just be all at once. So then I was having them removed. And then I was getting them removed so they wouldn't be infected.
How did the doctors react when you when these were removed? Did they know what they were removing? Did you tell them?
I was
Did
just
you
about
ask
to
for
ask
them?
that question.
They kept them in capsules.
You know, we're always on the same page.
The body forms a capsule around them. So they didn't break the capsule. They sent it to a lab. And then the lab comes back with an erroneous diagnosis.
Did you did you get the implant back yourself? Did you get that back from the lab?
No. I haven't had any removed and any infections for about 10 years.
I remember when Dr. Lear had done a couple documentaries. He showed how they would, when trying to remove an implant, it would actually react.
Yeah, to the metal.
Well, yeah, it would move away actually, like opposite poles. It was like it did not want to be taken out, so to speak.
Because when I put the magnet to the one that came out of my son's foot, it stayed there and then it shut off the table. But there was a delay before it shut off the table. And so I almost lost it. It was pretty small. It's about that size.
So they seem to be like polar opposites.
Yeah,
Even though that it's not a magnetic or a so-called magnetic material, but a material that we're not that's not originally from our planet.
That's what they said. It wasn't an element known, was what the geologist said. But the delayed effect of it jumping was interesting. It didn't just react. It waited a while before it reacted.
I've never had it. Excuse me. I've never had it checked out. But I believe I have an implant in the back of my neck here. And sometimes it's very prevalent. And other times you can't feel it at all. But when it is prevalent, I mean, you can feel a large bump, almost like a cyst, but then it goes away. But when it's there, it tingles.
They're taking it away.
What, you say again?
They're taking it away.
No. You misunderstand. I mean, right now I can't feel it, but I can feel it probably in 10 minutes.
Oh,
you know what I mean? And it's weird. Like I said, when it's there and it's prevalent, it tingles. Yeah. Almost like an electric sensation.
I wonder if they're doing anything at that point, Damien.
Yeah.
What size is it?
Oh, it's probably, when it's very prevalent, it's probably about half the size of a penny.
Wow.
Yeah.
That almost sounds more like a human. I mean, a military. Yeah.
And see,
the ETs, the Pleiadians are, there's one in my wife's back, which I took a photograph of. It's like a BB. It's so small, the tip of a pencil. Imagine that being a ball, the tip of a sharpened pencil. So if it's that big, I'm at, and Greer, and I mean, Steve, the guy you were talking about, he was finding suddenly a lot of human implants being put in people. I think he was discovering a lot more were from humans than he was getting from celestials. But the celestials are so minute.
Well, I remember when I was given this thing, when I was taken, I was on the operating table and the gray alien put her hand on my forehead and injected something right there. Okay. So I kind of believe that that's when I got it.
That would make the most sense.
However, there was, you know, you were talking about the military being involved with these things, but in my situation, it started out with somebody who was quite obviously military. He looked like the typical men in black. He didn't have the fedora or the dark sunglasses or anything, but he did have an official looking suit on, and he had a patch that had a weird insignia on it. And he was the first one I had contact with when I saw the black triangle in the sky. And then the gray alien stepped out from behind him. And that was the last time I saw him. So I guess my question is are there military factions working with the grays in these abductions?
There's a military. I'm involved with 3 groups. One is the U.S. military. That's all I'm going to say. They have the ability to abduct. They have the ability to do surgery. They use clones. They're very advanced. Then, of course, there's the Pleiadians and the Greys. None of them, there's some cooperation going between the Pleiadians and Greys. In one case, they protect a woman. The Pleiadians ask the Greys to protect this person, and the Greys protect that person. So there's some kind of cooperation going between the Pleiadian and Greys, which is interesting because historically they were not comparable. There was a lot of they didn't like each other. The Pleiadians had a lot of problems with the hybrid program the Greys were doing. They thought it was cruel, and they were overlooking the process. They thought it was too aggressive on the women. When I looked at the hybrid Grace hybrid program in the mid 70s, it was horrendous. Some of the women were screaming, some were quiet. But when I talked to a woman who had one in 2009, she was being totally comforted and had total trust versus the terror I was getting out of the women in the mid 70s in their abductions.
Well, either they improved on their way of doing things, or it was a different species.
No, it was the same species. They changed their format, and the Pleiadians had a lot of concern with the way they were doing it. But they changed. I can when I talk to somebody who's been with the same Greys I have, I can tell. We're talking about the same species. Mm-hmm. The Greys are not robotic. They have personalities. The hybrids even more so.
Well, there's different types of the same species.
Yeah, I know. I was confused. There was 3 different.
Yeah.
Yeah, but they all work together. I
primarily,
figured it out. But the one that did the hypnosis looked different than the other one. There were differences. But my regressions, most of them with the Greys have been under hypnosis. I've gotten very little recall. They brought me in to watch a woman get breastfeed a hybrid baby one time. I woke up on their tables when they were dismantling me. And I quickly go back to sleep because I know when I wake up, it's gone. As a
When
child,
you say dismantling you, what did you mean?
they take you apart. I don't know how to describe that.
Dismember?
They removed my eye in one. They
Okay.
put the eye back in. When I
Well, they had
watched,
the higher technology to do things like that. You know,
yeah,
they
well,
have the higher
I
involvement.
watched them dismantle an 18-year-old girl's brain. No bleeding, no blood, and they put her together like a Tonka toy. No marks, no nothing. But I couldn't understand the no bleeding. They took the left hemisphere out of her head. They put it by her hip. They had the skull part by her head. And they had found a implant in her brain, which was the MK Ultra project. And they were bringing that to my attention. That was a 16-hour missing time.
We're coming up on an hour here, and so I think we're going to get out of here for the night. But with that in mind, about this dismemberment and such, there are a lot of people out there who believe that being abducted like this is a human rights violation. You know, we don't give our consent for this, and yet they take us and they perform experiments on us. And so I just kind of want to get your take on that.
Okay, what's been done on me hasn't been experimental. It's been corrective. The cancer they removed, what they did to my lung, which I posted the pictures of. So all that I've had done has been corrective. What they did to my hands, I couldn't do this with my hands. I was going to specialist doctors. They couldn't help me. The Greys, I think, corrected my hands. I woke up once with all my knuckles exposed. They'd separated all the tissue off of the knuckles, and they're doing something with the knuckles. So for me, the procedures have been corrective. They removed discomfort. So I haven't seen the experimental aspect of them.
People don't understand there's some that are healers as well.
Yeah. Oh, they definitely have healing beyond us.
Yeah. Well, we get a lot of our technology and knowledge for medical things from the higher realms as well, different dimensions.
Yeah, but nothing competes with their surgery.
Well, of course not. I mean, we don't have that. You know, they're not going to tell us and show us everything.
No, but I don't think man was more interested in war technologies than he was in 1954 in the treaties. They wanted the technologies for war. I know that there's been sharing going on between the Celestials and groups of people. Different military branches have different involvements with different Celestials. Right. But of course, I don't know what the Palladian surgery is. They've done a lot of surgery on me. I wake up in a recovery room. That's all I know. They're doing something with my blood, running it through and out. I don't have any perception on them. I can't make sense of their methodology, especially the Greys just taking you apart. When I witnessed what happened to that 18-year-old girl, that was traumatic. But had that implant not been put in her head, the Greys wouldn't have taken her apart to find it.
But you were shown that for a reason.
They wanted to know they wanted to know what I knew about it.
Well, they look at our emotional system too, because they don't have one.
Yeah. But the MK Ultra, and I got a picture in my book of a child participating with the wires coming from her head. They would put an implant connected to the step. So it was about the size of my thumb, black, brown, and it looked like looking at a cockroach in the wrong place. It was frightening looking to see that in a human girl's head. But that was put in by our military.
We look at them as being bad in the aspect of dissection or dismemberment, but our own government does the same thing to them. It's no different.
Yeah, I've seen the pictures. But what they've done to me has been purely corrective medicine.
Right.
They have,
and that's good.
And so they've helped me. They've done work on my back. The military, the X-rays disappeared before they were put into the military file. I'm a veteran, so I get so some of my medical records are disappearing. And so they corrected the dislocated disc, which had caused me a lot of discomfort. In the following X-rays, it wasn't there. What they did on my lung helped with my respiratory problem on my right lung, and I posted this. That left a lot of immediate surgical marks, and I posted that. That was done by the military. So yeah, I haven't seen experimental.
I just want to interrupt here real quick. Dorothy Hawkins, who has become a pretty good friend of mine, says, fascinating discussion, everyone. Makes me glad I shared it all around my Facebook UFO, alien, paranormal groups. First of all, I want to say thank you for sharing, Dorothy. I really appreciate that. And please,
thank you,
everybody, be sure to like the video. And if you haven't subscribe, please, and hit that little bell so you get notified every time we're going to do another Black Lotus Live. And please share it around. But Kenneth, I think we're going to get out of here for the night. Thank you very much for being here. It was very fascinating talking with you.
Thank you.
I appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely, Ken. I'll be touching base with you later.
Okay. I'm looking forward to the writing, to your writing.
Viewers, thanks a lot for
thank you,
watching. And until next time, keep thinking and question everything.
Oh, yes.